T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, my friends. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. I'm your host, Space Tomato, and this is your space game podcast to come check out some space game talk. And today we've got a returning guest, another podcast aficionado, YouTube of Star Citizen and lately Starfield, SaltEMike. How's it going, dude?
What's up? How's it
How
going?
you been? Oh, I'm good. I'm not as hot as hot and humid as I have been over the last couple of months, so I'm feeling better for this one. How are you doing, dude?
Very hot and humid, and big scary hurricane batting down towards us right now. So yeah.
Yeah, y'all Florida people, you just had a hurricane, right? A couple weeks ago?
Not for us, but yeah, it hit Florida, but Florida's really big. So
Yeah,
it missed me completely, but this one looks like it might miss, but it is, if it doesn't, it's gonna hurt. This one coming Lee, I think it is.
Man, it's rough. I'm seeing some headlines here and there of those hurricanes. It's weird now that I've lived in both California and Florida and then moved away from them both. I still get like headlines for or California fires and headlines for Florida hurricanes, and I'm like, man, where are you to live? I hope you're.
I always think about that. There's nowhere.
Yeah, it's like blizzards.
Something's always trying to kill you.
Earthquakes or something. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys are safe out there, buddy. And maybe the biggest hurricane to hit you this month will be Alpha 3.20 dropping instead of whatever that is out there in the Atlantic.
Yeah, that'll be a little breeze of a storm.
Well, folks, we're here today to talk about some Alpha 3.20. Also, we're going to talk about Alpha 3.21, which has been kind of confirmed and a little bit of chatter on Spectrum. And just in general, I think we are mostly expecting. So we'll be going over those two patches, maybe talk a little bit about CitizenCon. But we're going to start the day off actually talking about Starfield. Now, there's plenty to talk about with Starfield. But I would love to just start off by getting your initial opinion after you've had, a week or so now to play it, and you've been playing on stream and getting into the story and characters and stuff. What are your thoughts so far?
I probably haven't played as many hours as most people, and the hours that I have played, I'm taking my time. So, like, I have done 0 faction quests. I have done a little bit of... I've done a good amount of main story. I don't know how far the main story goes, obviously. But I have just, wherever I go, I'm just just going wherever I feel like the world is taking me at that moment, right?
Yeah, so just letting it take you.
Yeah, I get distracted from whatever task I was doing and do other things. My inventory is incredibly full with resources, and I'm just looking to craft or whatever. If I was to put a number on the game out of 10, it's 7.5.
Okay.
It's good. It's not the greatest game I've ever played in my life or anything, but it's certainly scratching some itches that I've had for many years. As far as I think anybody who watches the content that I make I'm very, very interested in seeing not Star Citizen turn into an RPG, but taking some elements of progression and character progression and those feelings and crafting and stuff like that, and seeing it in Star Citizen. So
Yeah.
So it's having that in an environment that looks a lot like Star Citizen, feels a lot like the game that we've been playing. It's been nice.
So that I want to jump into that a little bit more. You said you are interested in these RPG elements. We'll get back to Starfield, but real quick, how do you feel then about the whole skill system that they're talking about bringing into Star Citizen? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Oh, no. I think what I'm more touching on is fighting an NPC, opening their pack or like looting them and seeing a piece of armor that is better than what you have. like making the decision, do I drop what I have and pick this up, or do I not?
Okay.
What additional qualities does this have that I might use at some point? You see like corrosive protection and all sorts of things like, oh, I can get additional oxygen, right? Like there's a lot. That's what I mean. I don't necessarily mean skills, because
Yeah.
that would be asking them to change everything about Star Citizen altogether. I think the expectation is that they would add a little bit more to the armor or the weapons that we have than what we currently have, and just being able to play something that um, sort of fits the expectations of where I would like to see those elements go in Star Citizen has been refreshing and really nice. But
So,
skill stuff, I like what Star Citizen is intending to do with skills. More
okay.
passive and just grounds you in your character a little bit, makes you feel like you're your character, but that's it. Not too much.
So it's like that, the same old, same old. We want things to matter in Star Citizen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I
We've
get
talked
you.
about that a lot.
Yes. For years now, it's
Yeah.
been a constant topic. You also mentioned it kind of scratching an itch. Does Starfield feel like it scratches an itch that you've been missing from a more complete Star Citizen, or does it feel like it doesn't even really encroach in that territory?
It's interesting. It okay, I was playing the PTU today and I wanted to check something out and I couldn't spawn my ship. So I just turned off Star Citizen and played Starfield. Right? It was just simple. Where
Yeah.
before it would be like, oh man, what do I do? How
Yep.
how do I work around this? So for me, it's like, playing a finished, just done, obviously not fully polished and perfect game, but or by any means, but something that is just like, yeah, you just play it. It has been nice. But what it's also done is kind of highlighted what I think Star Citizen does really well with immersion and the space flight and um the focus on your ship, right? Which is not something that I see in Starfield. So
Yeah.
it's scratching itches in both directions. It's like it makes me want to play Star Citizen more sometimes. And even just from a content creator perspective, it's scratching an itch of I found a game that my community is enjoying, that they don't mind watching me play and interacting with me, but it doesn't have to be Star Citizen. So I have like choices now, and it's just like I don't know, it's all around good.
Yeah. I think that's an important point, is like everybody's opinion of the game is going to be coming from different angles. Some people want it
Hmm.
to be like their main game that they play for 5 hours every day. Some people kind of just want it to be like an extra game they play when their friends aren't online. And then there's
Hmm.
folks who are making content from it. And it's like you can't you can no longer look at a game, or I guess this was probably never true. You can't just look at a game and decide, hey, this is good or bad based on a number. It's so subjective.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people, at least were missing into the lead up of the Starfield launch, is like folks aren't interested in a Bethesda RPG. At least they shouldn't be interested in a Bethesda RPG for the same thing as Star Citizen is trying to offer. That
No,
it's going to leave you wildly disappointed.
in both directions.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you shouldn't go into Star Citizen wanting it to be a Bethesda RPG, right? So it's you're just going to always be disappointed. And well, some people, we've spent some time on the internet here, Tomato, that uh, some people just seem like that's what they want to be. They just want to be disappointed, right?
Oh yeah.
Uh, so it's just you can't please everybody, and some people you can't please at all. And we're seeing a lot of that on the internet. A lot of people have opinions on the internet,
Oh god.
and most
So
of them
many.
are terrible.
The I oh god, this is something that just happens with Bethesda RPGs and also Rockstar games, where
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
you have to do a skill over and over to get it to finally upgrade. So
Hmm.
sometimes you find you're bashing your head against a wall, just like forcing yourself to do this skill that sometimes you like, but most of the time you're just doing it to upgrade it. And I feel like that's how some of these people are with their YouTube comments. Like they don't actually have to go out and give those opinions. They just wake up in the morning and they're like, I need to upgrade today. let me put out 3 thoughts that nobody's going to agree with, but I know we'll get some engagement. And yeah, there's just a lot of that surrounding these 2 games. So a lot of people have talked about playing Starfield as kind of like they take a break from Star Citizen. You've said the same when it comes to streams and stuff. Do you think this is going to have an actual impact on like the demographic of the Star Citizen community? Like, are we actually going to see any sort of real shift, short or long term, or what do you think?
I didn't, but I talked to Burks yesterday, and he said a number of first-time chatters coming to his channel and saying, hey, is this the space game where like, you know, you could fly around in space and it's seamless? And so all these like Star Citizen versus Starfield takes are like getting out there into like more of the mainstream, and people are hearing about it and popping in. Like I haven't had that experience at all, but he's saying that he is. I don't know if you have.
No.
I mean, I'm not. So I don't know, but when he says that he's having this experience, and like a lot of first time chatters saying that, it's interesting, right? So that people are I don't think people are going to flock to Star Citizen,
No,
and certainly not after playing Starfield and having a typical Star Citizen experience without having the knowledge of workarounds that you or I might have, right?
Oh yeah. Like it's not a natural step in the least.
No.
It's like going into Star Citizen. Yeah, you have to look things up. I've never played a game where I had to look things up online to progress in the game. Star Citizen is just one that you have to. And I think that kind of locks a lot of people out of really enjoying it. But I was thinking more the other direction. That's what people were really, you know, obviously the whole, oh, it's going to kill Star Citizen. We know it's not.
No.
But are you seeing, do you think there will be any effect on the amount of people who are playing Star Citizen decreasing over the next couple of months because of Starfield, or not coming back to the game because of it, or anything like that?
I don't know. Like there's this weird addiction to Star Citizen doesn't feel like an addiction, but you can't stop watching it. Like I don't know if it's for some people that it's like you want to watch the car crash, but I don't think that that's what it is. I think it's, you know, the game has so much potential that people are still rooting for it, whether they're hating on it or not. I think a lot of people are still like fingers crossed rooting for it. So I don't think it's going to take people away completely, but there's no doubt in my mind that in the short term, I mean, do you like, I don't really care about what's happening with Star Citizen at the moment as much. Like, wow, the Fury LX is, you know, what you know, what an ISC, man. I'm hooked back in. Starfield, not even thinking about it anymore. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Yeah, I get you.
It causes the hype levels are reduced, but I don't, in the long term, I think so many people are just way too invested to allow anything to get in the way. How has nothing gotten in the way up to this point? How will Starfield? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you in like the sense that Starfield doesn't do anything to, or I won't say anything. It doesn't do much to take away from what draws people to Star Citizen. If Star Citizen was like an RPG and it was focused around unlocking skills and building relationships with NPCs and like managing your mission loadout or your mission log as like the main draws to the game, then I would say yeah. But like the person who wants to get into Star Citizen is like looking to do ship engineering for their crew, or they want to be like the person on the ship who runs turrets while their friends are flying. Like you're not going to Star Citizen for that kind of stuff. So I agree with you there. I don't think there are things that would pull people away from it long term. But in the short term, there's definitely like it's the little things. Like you said, Star Citizen had a problem. You had a game that was comfortable to jump to. I'm sitting here thinking about like what videos can I make for Star Citizen right now? Like what do I want to do? And then I do something on Starfield, and like a couple hours later I'm like, that was really like that was good. Maybe I want to make a video about that. And that takes away from a video that would have been made about Star Citizen, but I don't think that really makes that big a difference in the grand scheme of things, because we're talking more about the designs of these two games than just how much people want to play them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, unless you decide that you were like making a guide for Starfield or something, I don't like for me I'm having a similar experience, but like I have a video idea that I want to make. I want to talk about the whole sea, and uh, I have a lot to say about it, but I haven't made it yet because I'm not sure if anybody cares. So there's like the other reason is nobody or less people are paying attention. So why
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I had one, but it didn't.
Fake
It
bless
didn't
you.
come. It's coming. It'll be there. But I thought I was gonna sneeze. I just dabbed instead. I was dabbing.
That's cool. It's fine in the middle of a sentence. I get it.
Yeah, but yeah, I just don't know if anybody cares, and I don't know if I want to do it because making videos isn't easy, and you want people to watch them when you make them, right? So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there's that.
that's a huge angle that is maybe not considered as much. You're doing this full time, so like
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously it's fun to make a video about everything that you want to do, but every single video is doing one less of another video. Making a video about Starfield at this time could be better than making a video about Star Citizen at this time, just because of how things are going differently in those two games. And I get how that thought process goes. Been trying to do this full time as well, and the difference between streaming one game or another doesn't necessarily mean one game is better or not. It could just mean that's kind of what you're in the mood for that day.
Yeah, I am absolutely 100% in the mood to be playing games with story in them. That's what I want right now. And I also am in the mood to occasionally dive into the changes that in Star Citizen. So like I yesterday I woke up thinking I was going to play more Starfield and then decided that well Star Citizen put out a patch. It's actually pretty cool what they're doing, exciting, a lot of quality of life stuff. Let me look at some of it. And I ended up streaming the entire day for way longer than I expected and had a ton of fun doing it. And then today I ran into a little issue and I had a ton of fun playing Starfield.
Oh man,
So
isn't that
it was
great?
just it's
That's so good.
when in the entire breadth of time that you and I have been making, live streamer or making YouTube videos, has that really ever been an option?
Dude, I've been
It's never
suffering.
felt like one for me.
You've been doing this for significantly longer than I have, and I don't know what was going on back then, but ever since
Imagination stuff. So it was
Yeah, dude.
easier back then. You just talked about what you thought something will be. So that it was so easy to make content back then because everybody was copiumed up and thinking this was
Yeah, man.
2 years from
2
now
more
this is gonna be
years,
the
dude.
greatest thing.
Yes.
Exactly. So it was easy then. Since you've come in, it's funny. It was like partly easier to make content, but also really hard because you actually have to make content about the product. It wasn't just talking, making stuff up.
I feel like when I started, content was kind of changing, and then again, like this year as we go into 4.0, it feels like it's changing as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know what it was like, but man, it was just, it's so great. It's been such a long time. I can't remember the last time I had 2 really high quality games that I I say high quality, 2 games that have had a lot invested into them, we'll say, that I want to jump back and forth between, because before Star Citizen I was playing like Halo and other console games, and really I stuck to maybe 1 or 2 games at a time, and they were always at different times. But now having Star Citizen and Starfield to jump between is really nice, and I hope that this means more space games will become more common over the next several years.
Perhaps, and there's just again the content creator angle a little bit. There was never a time where there was a significant number of your Star Citizen audience also significantly interested in another game and have that game be AAA, like hype, massive, like there was Elite Dangerous, niche game. There was No Man's Sky, really bad launch. There's all these like little niche space games that have come out over the years. I think probably the best example that comes to my mind right now is like Hard Space Shipbreaker, mega niche,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
your audience is interested in it, but like, come on, how long are you going to play that, and how long is how much as a creator, I think you need a little bit of a break or a moment to refresh your energy and excitement back into Star Citizen. And it's when you can do it while still entertaining your audience and them not like just leaving you high and dry because you're not doing something that they're interested in is incredibly refreshing, right? So this is like a first for every single Star Citizen creator
yeah,
in
yeah.
11 years.
It's definitely a different angle when you're taking it from that perspective, because like you look at all the big flashes in Twitch streaming, we'll say, is like the bar, right? You have games like
Mhm.
Among Us or Elden Ring or Zelda, or just like very fantasy focused. Among Us is kind of sci-fi, but I I don't think that falls into the genre.
Yeah.
But like a lot of
No.
really big fantasy hit games that like you could go and stream, but a lot of the times,
Yeah.
like you said, those people who are interested in space games wouldn't really want to come and watch. And yeah, Starfield is definitely an anomaly in that point. And like we've now got Outer Worlds 2 to look forward to from Obsidian coming out about that. There's another Star Wars game coming out next year.
Oh, I'm
Um,
excited for that. Yeah.
so like, yeah, it's nice for the more like action adventure focused space games. We're eating quite well.
Yeah. And part of me wonders if like the creators in the space are really hyped because it's like this kind of unique situation for them where they can make new content and it feels so refreshing and feels so exciting that maybe myself and others are more excited for it than they would be normally if they weren't creators. For me, I don't think that's the case at all. Uh, this is a game I absolutely would 1000% would have played, and honestly would be playing more if I wasn't a creator. I Mass Effect is my number one of all time,
Yeah,
and this feels Mass Effect.
yeah, yeah. I'm right there with you. If
Yeah.
I had gone some different path and didn't get into content creation, this would be one of those games that I obsessed over. I grabbed Mass Effect 2, I think it was when it came out, and like
Hmm.
played my first 12 hours without getting up. And that was like freshman year of university. That was not a good time to be doing that, but
I
I
beat
was
you
in
by
for it.
3 hours. I
Okay.
did 15, and I fried my Xbox 360. I red ringed to death that
Oof.
after
Oh
my
God.
I waited for Mass Effect 2 for so long, and I had to send it back. I didn't get to play for a month. So I played it day 1 and then I had to put it down for a month. It was one of the worst
My
times
heart
of my
goes out to
life.
you, dude. That was the best
Yeah,
Mass
man.
Effect. Like that.
Yeah.
That hurts me.
That was
Young,
so
young,
sad.
salty Mike with the
I still
gosh.
wasn't young. I already graduated college at that point.
Okay, okay. Well, inexperienced salty Mike. A little less
Yeah.
salty. Man, that sucks, dude. But that was yeah, that game was worth it. That was
Oh yeah.
a great moment. I think that was when I really solidified what kind of game I liked going forward. The space RPG
Mhm.
just got me, which is why Starfield is something that I really enjoy now as well. How about though the obvious comparison, the more obvious than Star Citizen comparison? We'll go through this one real quick. But do you think this has any effect on Squadron 42?
No, because Squadron isn't. Nobody will be talking about Starfield when Squadron 42 is a relevant topic. Squadron 42 is not a topic of discussion right now.
No, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to invite you on for
We
3 more episodes this year, and we're going to talk about Squadron until you can't stand it.
it's too late. I'm already at that point. It's just not it's just not a discussion topic whatsoever, and it's definitely not a discussion topic in relation to any games that are currently out.
That's the
Right?
hard part about it, to be honest, is people, because it is getting mentioned in the community more. People are more curious about it, and as a creator, I know as much as anybody else because we know nothing. We know
Yeah.
nothing. Like even the scripts that were leaked, the trailers that were released, they're all like 5+ years old now.
Yeah.
I don't know what that game's going to be anymore. So that's going to be a very interesting discussion to have over the next however many years. 2 years, right?
Yeah.
It's 2 years. It's always
Well, I mean, did you see the CR at Bar Citizen thing?
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've caught up on the rumors. You never know, but it's always 2 years, Mike. All right, don't trick
Yeah,
folks.
sorry. My bad.
It's part of the religion.
Yeah. I think we might hear something about it this year a little bit though.
Yeah,
see.
I certainly hope so. I mean, I will rage if we don't. I will. I'm gonna put out a video of me just raging if we don't hear about it.
Oh, no way. I don't believe it.
I will do it, and
I want to see what tomato rage looks like because I've never seen it yet.
Ah, boy, it's a spoiled tomato, that's for sure. Not a
Yeah.
good time. Nobody likes a hot tomato in their salad. If you do,
No.
try different salads. Okay, let's talk about Star Citizen. Yeah. So, thank you for your opinions on Starfield, by the way. I will probably talk more about that over the months, and like this, it's still fresh. Before we move on,
we
actually,
still
how
have an
many
expansion.
hours have you put into it?
I should look, but I would, if I was guessing, 40-ish.
Okay.
So not a lot for how long I've had it. I took a couple days, like I didn't play on Monday, and yeah, and like I said earlier, I didn't. The hours that I've put in, I'm more just like, how does this work, and fumbling with certain mechanics, and not really like I've been telling everybody this, that I misread or misunderstood the skill system. That there was, okay, so like ballistics. I knew I wanted to go into ballistics. I was enjoying some of the guns that I had,
Yeah.
and um, it's on the top level, right? And then it says to get to the second level of skills, you have to select 4 things from the first level.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I just selected across the board 4 things instead of buffing up my ballistic skills. So
Yeah.
I was at like level 15, but I was struggling with everything because I was not good at anything. And so I'm still struggling with that now, to the point where I actually wanted to restart. And then everyone was just telling me, like, there's no level cap, so just keep playing and learn from your mistake and just fix it.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
it's a pretty forgiving game. Like,
for sure.
you can kind of step back. My wife, Mrs. Tomato, she's in chat. She actually came up with a strategy that I realized after I had seen you play at one point. I should have told you, in the beginning when she started running out of ammo and stuff, she just started using her mining laser to take out the enemies, and it actually does some pretty good work.
It's effective against some things.
Yeah, so like they'll help you out, but I get what you mean. I played this game early. I did a full review, all this stuff. I'm pretty sure I have less hours in the game than you do now, because I've just been like jumping in for like an hour here or an hour there. And I've barely moved past that first row. There's just genuinely a lot of stuff to do in this game, to a point some people are saying that's a con of the game. I personally really like it, but there's a lot to discover.
Yeah, I think people just want to finish games or something. Like, all right, I play it, 20, 30 hours. I want to be done. I don't want to invest like hundreds of hours in my life into this. I want to move on to the next game, right?
Yeah.
We got Cyberpunk coming. We got, for me, City Skylines 2. There's like, endless games that are coming out right now because we're coming into the holiday season. So, okay, let me get through this and get to the next thing. And, I want to play more Armored Core 6, things like that. And I think that might be something like, but for me, I'm just going to take my time, and I want to play this game throughout the next 6 months, year.
Yeah, a long
You know,
time.
I don't care.
I think people get a sense of FOMO, man. They see like these posts on social media of people doing cool stuff, people talking about New Game Plus, talking about seeing the coolest mission, and you get like a little bit of FOMO. You want to get through it faster, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot. And
Who cares?
yeah,
Enjoy it at
pacing.
your pace, man.
Oh yeah, dude.
Enjoy it. Allow yourself to enjoy something.
Yes,
We
that's
don't do
why.
that anymore in
That's why I still
any
haven't.
aspects of our lives.
Yeah, it's why I still haven't finished the first season of Arcane. I am drawing it out until the next
I haven't
season.
either.
It works, folks. It's a valid strategy. Just hold back. You can, I promise. It's helpful. All right. Now we get into Star Citizen. So, boy. This year. This has been a year.
Okay.
It's this summer has been a summer. But we are now starting to hear about the next update with Alpha 3.20. Doesn't necessarily mean, though, that we're not out of the drought. Does it feel like we're moving back into more active time, or do you think they're still going to hold us down under a pillow while we wait for CitizenCon?
Okay, well, it depends on how you look at things, right? So this might be coming from the way you phrase the question tells me that it's coming from your perspective on like I cover Star Citizen development and I cover like what they're doing, and they're not telling us about what they're doing. But what they've done in 320 is a lot. So I don't feel a drought. Is there one major huge like video crazy feature in 320? No. But are there 10, 20 interesting little changes that are like, wow, I've been waiting for that for a long time. Ooh, that's a nice little change. Sure. I mean, we obviously don't have a game to play, you know, and progress in you know, your how we would hope or expect. But I'm looking at 320 as I will feel the drought sooner than I did in 319. I will feel the drought sooner than I did even in 318 when I couldn't play it. But right now, I still think that they're like cooking and I like what I'm smelling. If I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, no, it's the
But
sirloin in the kitchen.
yeah, man, there's a lot of I mean, they added combat logging to the game.
Do you have any expectation that we were going to get something like that soon?
No.
I don't think they've talked about that at all.
Nope, they just did it. And it was like, whoa, okay. Like that's a big deal, but there's still so many other things.
Sure.
Like Xylo came into my chat yesterday and asked, like, what other quality of life changes would you like to see? And some people in chat like just went off and said like ridiculous things that there's no way are gonna get,
The Endeavor.
you know, like whole giant features, right?
Yeah.
But like, you know, simple things like VoIP working consistently. Maybe moving the VoIP button from numpad plus. Some people don't even have numpads to like V. You know, maybe you'll get a little more traction because maybe it is working. They just don't know what button to press.
Yeah.
Little things like that, right? The game we have now, I have been enjoying more than ever. So 319, I was playing almost daily with my org. I've never done that in all the time I've played Star Citizen, was play it off stream for leisure. And all of the things I'm seeing in 320 make everything I was doing way better and more fun. So it might feel like a drought to a lot of people, but to me, this is like one of the better patches.
Yeah. I get that. That's where I'm missing out because, like you said, I'm covering the development a lot.
Yeah, I am too, but yeah.
We're actually heading back to the States in a couple of days here. We'll be back in the US until early next year. So like my time zone's going to line up a lot more with my Oregon stuff. I am looking forward to trying to get in game and actually enjoy the stuff that's been added to the game and maybe was a little bit unstable towards the beginning of the year, but now it seems to be running a little bit better. What kind of stuff are you finding to be good in 319 and improved with the 3.20 PTU so far?
Salvage missions, the loot. So you're not just salvaging the hull anymore. There's a bug in 320 where it's hull scraping's like incredibly slow. So I don't recommend anybody doing that because it's not fun. But they made it so you only have to scrape 50%. So how you progress through the hull scraping missions is you take 1,000 credit mission and you scrape 50% of the hull and you abandon the mission, and then that's considered completing the mission. So
Mm.
you can then get the 20,000 credit hull, and these are all lawful, right? Hull scraping mission. Then at that one, you have more hull to scrape, so there's value there. But then you also have cargo to take. That's really interesting because it's pretty valuable. It can be pretty valuable. You finish that one, you have 50,000 credit, and the value in those can be insane. And then you have Wake of Disaster, 5 million credits. I used the whole C, so I couldn't sell it, but I calculated what it would have been. It was about 5 million credits. I moved all of the boxes by myself because now we have the large containers. I cleared an entire whole C and an entire caterpillar filled with drugs, gasping weevil eggs, like those kind of things. High value stuff in an hour, maybe by myself, like EVAing back and forth. Imagine if you had 3, 4 people. We're talking 15, 20 minutes, 5 million credits. So Wake of Disaster, I think, is going to be like, what's it called? The location on Microtech, Ghost Hollow. It's going to be like Ghost Hollow on steroids.
Mm.
It's going to be Jumptown on steroids, right? And that's what I think is a hopefully a nice improvement. Is a really cool mission that people are going to fight over that isn't on the ground and involves some space combat, involves some logistics. It's like kind of bringing a lot of the pieces of the game together. And then the mining changes have been, I mean, everything I've asked for. Like any feedback I gave, that a lot of other people were giving. I'm not saying I'm the one who made these changes or anything like that at whatsoever. Um, I don't have an ego like that. That's so cringe and weird. But everything that I was like, hey, this is a problem. They were like, yeah, it is, and then just fixed it.
I don't know, man. Sounds like
So
your streamers
an
are changing the game
influencer.
again. Yep.
Yeah. Nah, I think a lot
that's
of people had, the instability bug was like the overarching like worst. They made all these amazing changes to mining, and it screwed up the whole thing.
yeah.
So fixing that was basically all they did, and it's awesome.
And there are some other pretty big fixes coming in for 3.20. They've talked about the invisible player is like that. I mean, that has ruined, I think, every person I've talked to a game session or two since 318 came out. Yeah, so
Easily.
quality of life wise, 3.20 seems to be doing a lot. And we've seen patches like this before where like, yeah, I couldn't pick out a number off the top of my head, but like 2-3 years ago, we would kind of get this like staggering of a patch that was decent and then a patch that was just had a bunch of stuff we didn't need, but kind of had some good quality of life changes into it. Does this feel like another one of those? Where does this patch sit compared to everything back to like, I guess 315 with the inventory changes? Like, is it more content heavy, more quality of life heavy?
It's more like for bug fixes or big like key bug fixes, it's kind of like 3.7 for stability. What you remember, like 3.7 was like so stable, it was crazy, and that's sort of how this feels, but not with the stability side. It's just more like the bug fixing. 315, I think, hit so hard because it was like, whoa, looting. It was a feature,
Yeah,
right?
that was big.
There's no, yeah. So we haven't had a feature this year,
No.
really. Like, you can argue PES is a feature, but it's also not even remotely feature complete. So this year's been really weird.
And it's hard
So
to have those
I can't
because salvage could have been, but it's still just a profession. Whereas like looting was like every single person in the game got to benefit from looting. I don't know, man. The next time we might get a feature like that might be persistent habs or something. I'm not sure.
I should say cargo refactor. The bringing in, so this is, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention that, it didn't come to my mind, but uh going back to playing with my org, one thing that we would do a lot is we would go to Wake of Disaster and nobody would go there because there was no reason to, but we would take a bunch of vultures and we would salvage these huge ships and vultures, and we would be moving the boxes outside of the vultures and putting them in big ships, but they're only one SCU. Dude, our frames would be like 5 because there were so many entities and so many things going
Yeah.
on. It was crazy.
Right.
The fact that they have brought us 2, 4, 8, 16, 24, and 32 size boxes, it's such a game changer. From it touches everybody, I think.
Yeah.
And on top of that, something that isn't in the game that was called out in the initial notes, so it's not an Evo leak. I don't think. If I'm Evo leaking, I'm sorry. I also don't care because CIG doesn't enforce their NDA whatsoever. So why should I? Are you Evo, or do you care?
I'm not.
Do you
No,
mind,
I
just
don't
in
mind.
case? It's a very minor thing, but also very cool. Is the I'm 99% sure it was in the notes, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Any box now, and not just boxes, guns, backpacks, uh, the undersuit box when you take it off goes on an inventory grid and sticks to it, like the old 1 SCU boxes did in the last patch. So, or like organizing your ship with stuff is like, you can think of something that I really wanted to do was gun running. You can now place a 1 SCU box or a 2 SCU box that you create with a ship, put it on your cargo hold, put a gun on top of it to signify that this entire box is filled with FS9s,
So you're
and it
saying that
stays.
you're saying like player created boxes snap to the grid now?
Not just player created boxes, like
Anything.
nearly everything does.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
So you could snap a bunch of like boxes of armor in a cargo grid?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's nice.
But it's not working currently. So when
well,
it went to Wave 1 PTU, it broke.
Okay.
But
Okay,
it
but-
was in the initial Wave 1 notes.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll fix it.
And that kind of thing means they're experimenting with it. It's kind of like how we see the FPS emissions readings at the top of the screen in the PTU. We know that's not going to be in the next patch, but they're finally experimenting with it. This is something that we can start to see some progress on. That's nice to hear, man. Yeah, stuff working with the inventory snapping is great.
And like Arena Commander stuff, like I've been playing Gun Rush just for fun on my own, like a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff.
Arena Commander is also, I mean, that could completely change how Star Citizen is experienced for a lot of people who maybe don't want to get into the PU, who just want to experience Star Citizen's mechanics and just like get in and shoot some folks or do a tank battle real quick or something like that. That's very good. And a good call out too with the cargo refactor. I'm kind of interested actually, considering we're getting, I don't think what I expected to be getting at this point with the cargo refactor, with just the boxes and not the freight elevators, not the actual physical loading or the timers for everybody else. But would you have preferred it being done like this and slow rollouts of the cargo refactor? Would you have liked for them to have waited until it was all kind of ready to come in with the freight and the economy and everything? What do you think of this rollout so far?
It depends. So seeing what they're doing with the Hull C, have you, I'm assuming you jumped in and tried it.
A little
and
bit,
tried
yeah.
to cargo haul with it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's so stupid.
It's a pain, yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Excuse me. But they somewhere, I think it was an ISC, I can't remember. They were not really sure how the whole sea was going to react or what was going to happen or whatever. Um, performance wise, I think, or technical wise, I don't know. So I don't think that they care. I think they just wanted to throw it in. It just comes down to, I'm okay if they do it this way as long as it doesn't go down the route of mining did for many years, or looting is doing right now, or inventory is doing right now, where they're not iterating on these things. They put it in and they said, all right, see you later, guys. We're going to make Squadron 42. That is something I don't want to see. We're lucky that it's the NAPU team that's dealing with that stuff, so they don't work on Squadron, right?
Yeah.
And we can see, if you look at the progress tracker, their only tasks are freight elevators, cargo stuff. So hopefully they keep iterating on these things. It's fine to do this if you're going to listen to your community's feedback and address that feedback in a timely manner. It is not okay to deliver a really crappy, unfinished inventory system and then ignore feedback for years on end and not improve on them, right? So it depends on what direction they go. Then I think it's good, or I think it could be really bad.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is kind of hanging in limbo, and we're not really sure what they're going to do with it, because that also comes in line with like the whole idea of they want to allow us to do inventory management from the first person as well. Now we're reading in monthly reports like with loot and ammo, things that we assumed the inventory would normally do from the get-go. And so it's like, okay, are you going to have a third person inventory, a first person inventory? Are you going to combine them? What is the plan here? That's been a little bit frustrating, not knowing where that's going.
And like, dude, I used that mission where I took all the stuff off of the C2 and the Caterpillar. I put all that stuff on a Hull C. Guess what? I couldn't sell it anywhere. Right? There's nowhere to sell it because the only places that are buying, because like the current loop is very limited.
Yeah.
And if you really look at the Hull C, the potential for the possibilities there are like endless. The economy, to answer your initial question, like everything I'm seeing with the Hull C excites me for whatever the future of the economy kind of is. It's like you can kind of see it. Seraphim, Port Trustler, things like that are like the Port of New York, or and you can really see that like we're really moving bulk things here. But then you see really stupid things like, well, I attached my Hull C to a docking collar nowhere near the cargo grid, and then I have to remove myself from that and go somewhere else to gather cargo, and it's this like weird system that doesn't make any sense. And it's just what Star Citizen has done forever, right? Which is always put the ship before the gameplay.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know really upset you, that when you talked about one ship that still doesn't work even after all the cargo refactor.
Yeah.
The Argo.
The good old
Raft. There we go.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to stop putting the cart before the horse.
I mean, it's a puzzle being built, and like we don't get to see the instructions. Though. I mean, maybe not backwards, but like I understand that there are certain things with the cargo. Like I would say for sure that I want the economy to come in and be figured out with commodities before the Hull C is brought in to move that stuff around. And that's what we all thought was going to happen. But at the same time, I don't necessarily I don't know if I expect the freight elevators to be finished exactly at the same time as the Hull C, or for the Hull C to be held back until the freight elevators are finished. I'll say that, hold it back, but at the same time, like get it in game so that we can test it and play with it and know how it works. So I don't know. I find it hard to, I guess, say how the order that things are added should be.
Can I
But
give you
I'll
an example of what I
yeah,
mean?
sure.
I think the best example I can give is uh you remember the RSI mining ship thing that we voted on at
Yeah.
CitizenCon?
Mm-hmm.
I don't all I want them to think about right now is that they want to make an RSI mining ship that is somewhere between the Mole and the Orion, which is all they've told us about it so far. That's all I want them to think about until they have gathered the feedback on how we are going to mine and how they want the system to work. So taking certain steps for you know what, that's not a good example. The best example is the Reclaimer and the Vulture. So the current implementation of the Reclaimer and the Vulture is it shoots out this little one SCU box. The Vulture is a two-person ship, but is pretending to be a one-person one.
Yeah.
The Reclaimer is totally, needs a complete rework as far as the system is how it's gonna work, because they designed the entire thing, final art this thing, internally, before they ever thought, years before they ever thought about how the system we're going to be interacting will work. They had a plan in their head, but never tried to implement it. And we all have followed Star Citizen or other games and understand that, things change. So then why are you finalizing ship art when things are going to change, right? So for me, this is an impossible task for them to do because they obviously still have to sell ships, but ships that require gameplay that is nowhere near a final state, like salvaging right now, I don't want to see another salvaging ship get made. As bad as I want to see another salvaging ship, what it might look like, the external, like what company they'll use, whatever. We all love the spaceships because that's one of the best things the Star Citizen does. I don't want them to finalize any of it. I want it to be a gray blob, a square blob that does nothing, that I can't see anything, but they have the idea of how we'll interact it. They don't, that's what I mean by backwards. They don't think about how we're going to interact with things because they don't know how we're going to interact with things.
Yeah.
So the whole C is luckily something where they can, I think, easily change and work around those things. But things like the Prospector, things like the Mole, things like the Vulture Reclaimer, these are not easy changes. These are entire reworks, making new ships potentially.
And that's kind of where they're stuck, because they
Yeah.
could do that, but then they have a lot of people who are going to be very angry at them for changing this ship up to be a decent bit
There's no
different
win.
than it was. Yeah, there is no win. And I think that's like, as devil's advocate, I think there's a lot of truth to this, but like they would not have been able to fund what they set out to do.
No chance.
After the planetary, all the landing on planet stuff, they wouldn't have been able to fund this game without selling the ships. And the annoying part about that is, like you're saying now, they've sold the ships. They've sold these things. They've told people what they're going to be, what they're going to do, and they didn't have the design in place because they didn't know what code could do what design there was.
They don't know what their limits are.
It's literally, I don't know. I don't think there was any way to get around this. Obviously, the answer is for them to have planned ahead, but they didn't know. Like,
I mean, they did plan ahead, but you can't plan for anything. There's a hockey podcast I listen to, and they always say this phrase about hockey teams and the decisions that they make, and you plan, God laughs, right? You sit there and you ask anybody what their 5-year plan was 5 years ago, and there's a 0% chance they would have put themselves in the situation where they are now, right? I know certainly Star Citizen content creators are feeling that pain, right now. 5 years ago, I think we were probably hoping for very different conversations than the one we're having at the moment.
oh yeah,
So, I just think that, to play devil's advocate to what you were saying, they wouldn't need as much money if they didn't waste so much time.
I think
Right.
there is a scope of this game that they could have hit the perfect balance between what they could fund and what they could build for the version 1. And they obviously went over that with this
of course.
version 1. I mean, like with engineering, the amount of work it's going to take for engineering to work on every ship, like we can see it. And I think it'll be a forever study of figuring out where was that line and when was it crossed. Because there are a few key moments I can think of during the development of this game.
Of course.
That you could point to. But yeah, we're at that stage now. That's where we are. And I think it's reasonable to look at the state of the game and look at a ship like the Halsey coming in and be frustrated with what it's missing, just based on the fact that we waited so long for it to come into the game.
Sure, and I'm not. I think I'm okay with what it appears like they're doing. Is they didn't know there's no way of knowing the effect it will have until we get out there and start putting 4,608 SCU on a ship and fly it around, right? So as long as they take our reactions and actions with the ship and go, okay, here's all the feedback. They don't want to be going back and forth and all this stuff. You know, very similar to what we're seeing with mining and salvaging and some of the, like, just next patch, bang. You know, reacting to our actions and improving on them. As long as that's what we're doing, I am happy, Mike. You know, there's not going to be an angry bone in my body about the current state of it. But the only time that I'm going to be like, oh my God, is the 320, release video when it's, all about the whole, look at, this is released. This is the best thing ever. And it's not, like refueling anybody. Name the last 5 patches and a feature that is just not there, but they sold it as if it was,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing that I'm going to have an issue with that is you have a team that is figuring things out, and then you have a marketing team that is selling it like it's done and just creating disappointment for everybody. It makes no sense.
Refueling is a very disappointing one. And I understand that maybe they want to wait until they get the beacon system reworked for that. But like, again, there's not been any communication to tell us what's going on with it. They dropped refueling and because they were like, hey, you guys are going to need it in Pyro. You're definitely going to need the refuel in Pyro. We'll make sure this is working for you in Pyro. And they wanted to have Pyro out at the beginning of this year. Where's refueling?
How about the beginning of last year as well, and the year before that, and dude, CitizenCon Pyro again. It's hard to be excited.
Here's what I hope they do. And they kind of did this last year with CitizenCon. They focused more on 4.0 than Pyro itself. Which, okay, yeah, do that. Like, tell us about things that maybe I think we all kind of understood. They won't all be 4.0, they'll be like 4.x. But I do hope that, again, this year, they're not focusing on like, this is Pyro, this is the stage of Pyro, but like the features, the reputation updates, the law updates, the bounty hunting updates, economy, that kind of stuff would be...
I loved last year's CitizenCon.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to this year's.
Because you think they're going to do a keynote?
Not just because I think they're going to do a keynote, because I think the way they did it last year is the right way to approach the game in its current state, is to put the developer in front of it, or not even the game in the current state, just the way that they like to do things, which is like put these untrained developers in front of a camera and tell them to sell the game to people, essentially, right? And or to sell their feature that they're working on to gamers. And when it was highly edited and polished, they were able to set the right expectations, I think, and keep everything really grounded, polished, and understandable. And that was the greatest difference from every other CitizenCon I've ever seen. Is there wasn't a lot of Chris Roberts until the end, and we at that point we already knew, we were already exhausted and just ignored everything he said anyway, and are more trained to do so now. And he wasn't the forefront. he was the end, right? The meat of the show had nothing to do with him. It was all the people that work on the game sharing their hard work or the things that they're thinking about or whatever, right? And I
Yeah.
thought they did such a good job of that. And it was just boom, bang, bang, no waiting. Give it to me. It wasn't super long until Chris started talking. And now we have 2 days of what? And the only thing that they're hyping is fight or flight. I love the Atmo esports guys. I loved Fight or Flight. It was one of the best experiences of my entire life. It was so fun.
Are you in it this
But
year?
no, I'm not going to CitizenCon. Um, so, and from that perspective, watching from home, it's going to be brutal. So I think it's going to be, a very focused event at the event. People who are going, I'm sure, are going to love it.
I'm
But I
looking
don't know
forward
if
to
I
it.
will. Yeah.
I mean, we say like don't go to CitizenCon if you're going for news, right? Go there if you want to meet with the community.
Exactly.
But at the same time, also watching from home is when you should be watching because you want to hear about the news. And there's just a lot of expectation right now from just a whole bunch of different little things, from this recent Bar Citizen rumors to Squadron 42 not being on the store page to the fact that we've been waiting 10 years and like everybody is kind of like, okay, it's do or die now. There are a lot of expectations going into this CitizenCon, and I don't know how it's going to turn out for
What are
folks.
yours?
Oh man, what are my expectations? I'm expecting them to have recognized that last year was good. That cutting it up into the panels, and I mean, like you said, they were all edited and prepared. It's just different from when they get on to the stage and they get live because they've done panels before. They've had people come up and talk about their stuff. And I've never been to one
Jared
of these
can
live.
say, no, don't say that. Don't phrase it that way.
Right. I've never been to one of these live, so I've never watched a panel. Like, I don't even know what it's like to see the panel in real time because I've always just skipped around and rewound and all this kind of stuff. So
it's pretty hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy in the room, man.
Yeah, I'm guessing especially this year.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a place where everyone that's there is there because they're excited,
Right.
So there's a different energy about it. Go watch the 2016 Gamescom presentation. Bro, it was nuts. You can hear me whistling and yelling.
I've used that clip so many times of when they stepped on Delamar that first time and everybody just lost it. I've used that in so many different videos because the energy was definitely there.
Yeah.
And really all I'm hoping for this year is just some good news, man. I mean, every year I'm like, oh yeah, I hope to see this feature, I hope to see that feature. We're going to see new features. We're going to see...
What's good news?
That the stuff that we're seeing is actually going to be in 4.0. Like, if we got to see a good representation of an interesting game that had reputation working, that had AI working in some way, that had a mission run all the way through and have a decent story. These are the things. This is literally like, what am I? I'm going back to CitizenCon 2019. This is exactly what it was. They literally had you meet somebody with some AI that worked. Those AI got out of a dropship. They flew you to a base. You got out of that base in this new location. You went and did a mission. You went out in survival and you got exfiltrated. All that stuff. I'd love to just see that work in an environment that I know is 4.0 and I know that we can get in a decent amount of time. Of course, whatever we get is going to not play as well because of the network issues that we don't understand where they'll even be by the time we see 4.0 or 4.1. But just knowing that the work we know has been going on, we've been reading about in monthly reports, we've been seeing on Star Citizen Live, we've been literally talking to the developers who have been working on these missions and doing this stuff, knowing that that's going to come together in a build in the game that people can play is good news.
Yeah.
So I don't need them to be like, oh, we've got Nyx here too. Check it out. 3 systems. Whoa. Like, just show us the game that will work for people. with the basic systems we've talked about.
Yeah, and to take what you're saying and just phrase it a different way, I feel exactly the same way. Just show me that you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
Do not show me an ArcCorp you are not going to use. Do not show me uh, a mission where the NPCs were on a specific path and you crouched behind them pretending like they couldn't see you. And do not just don't waste my time. Don't waste your own time to CitizenCon shouldn't be it will sell the game no matter what you show because the visual representation of Star Citizen will always sell it to somebody new because they're going to see something that is just mind blowing and it will always excite new people to play the game. But those players have to join the game with an expectation of that when I do buy into this, that like my money's going somewhere good and it's not being wasted. Or I don't know how I'm not really phrasing this correctly, but because I don't buy anything anymore.
No, I know what
so
you mean.
It's not like you're wasting my money. They've already spent my money. My money's been gone for years, so it doesn't matter. And I think that's how they treat us a lot now. Is it does feel like they're just looking for new money. But the idea of don't waste time anymore. Do the right thing. Just be good people and don't waste time and show us what you're working on. Don't show us your intentions for Star Citizen. Nobody cares anymore. Well, I don't want to speak for anybody else. I don't care anymore what your intentions for the game are. I want to know in the short term what cool stuff can we do and what's it going to be like,
Yeah.
And that's really all I want to see.
I think the most important two things would be to show us, like you said, in the short term, what are we going to be able to do with the game? In the long term, where are you? What is your overall goal? Like the last time they gave us a truly long-term idea of what Star Citizen is doing, I think that was 2018, Road to Release, when they set out all those things, and they ended at server meshing. We're about to hit server meshing. We don't have any sort of like long-term vision of what they're doing with Star Citizen right now.
And that's why you get so many polarizing conversations. Everybody is talking about Star Citizen like they know what it is. You don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Not a single YouTube commenter knows what it is. Not a single person in this Twitch stream knows what Star Citizen is. And I'm also convinced that they're not entirely sure either, right? Because we're experiencing it. They're putting things in, seeing how we react to it, and adjusting based off of that, which is a good thing. Gathering feedback and making it better. I think we're going to end up having a better game for it. Think Baldur's Gate, right? Lots of situations like that. Gathering feedback is a great thing. But the players coming in are, and this is where we're getting this dumb, these dumb Starfield takes, these dumb Star Citizen versus Starfield takes, is because everyone had an expectation created for them for whatever reason, whether it was a CitizenCon, a YouTube video, a Space Tomato video, a SaltEMike video, a Morphologist video. We all have our feelings on the game and what it might be and what we think it could be. But we're all clueless. So it's hard to I would love to see that. I would love for them to say this is what the end game for an org would look like. This is what the end game for a certain profession like salvaging is going to look like. Because how do you develop towards these goals? How do you develop a ship like the Hull Sea without knowing what it's going to be? It makes no sense. Like little tweaks are fine, but they're making massive ones.
Yeah. And we're still looking at the game's future from the perspective of the features they talk about rather than like the overall design of the game. Like I could talk forever and ever about how crazy cool the quantum economy will be and like changing and shipping stuff to this store and having it have this effect and knowing that mining will pick up to account for that. But that's because we know about quantum. Like they haven't said that's actually what's going to happen with Star Citizen itself. And I think that's why expectations end up going so high so often. People are like, hey, I'm going to make a city. I'm going to start an outpost to make a city on the moon. We don't even know if they'll let us do that.
It's what I know it's a sandbox, but there's plenty of sandbox games that have, they push players in directions of like, here's some enjoyable thing that you like to do. Go, you know, go progress in that direction. Go feel inspired to do these things. And usually there's like this big overarching reasons to do them. There's gold sinks, you need to go make money, um, fuel costs or component costs or whatever, name a million different things. There's what is the motivation for the game? Uh, and there could be a number of different motivations for a number of different types of players, PvPers, industrialists, all sorts of things. I don't want Star Citizen to become Eve at all, but when I looked into Eve, it was very, we're looking at I just hear this argument in my YouTube comments all the time when I try to talk about Star Citizen and making it a game, and people go, it's a sandbox. Well, Eve is the ultimate sandbox, but Eve motivates its players to want to do things through features and gameplay and things like that. Talk to me about that. These are the SCLs I want to see. These are the ISCs I want to see. Stop teaching me about game development. It might be something you're interested in, Tomato, or others watching the stream, but not me. Why is Starfield talking to me? Because it's a game. It's not. They're not talking to me how they made the game.
Yeah.
It's just not my. It's not my interest.
One of my favorite Star Citizen Live episodes, I think, would be to get the missions features team and the narrative team on a talk together. Because then you've got the people who are in charge of the mission names,
and the
mission
economy.
function, the economy, and reputation. And you could just, oh man, that would be such a great show.
Because I think you're making like a great point. Doesn't it feel like they obviously need each other, the different teams sometimes, but don't you feel like they're separate? Creating things in a separate little box? I think like one of the best examples was the initial salvage missions are made by so salvaging hull scraping is made by the EUPU team. Then the mission is made by the mission team in the EU. And then at the same time, the EUPU team just takes this tractor beam and makes it the most godlike tool of all time. And like, it just pulls everything off of everything and can do all this stuff. And the mission team it doesn't feel like they have no idea that was going to happen. So the only salvage missions we get are hull scraping.
Well, and the hull scraping mission was a result of hull scraping coming out and being used in ways that weren't expected, right? Like they didn't expect people to be just taking the cargoes.
Because it wasn't, I don't think they didn't know it was going to be there. Right? So they built it without knowing it was going to be there. And it almost seems like everybody's in their own little cubby and not, I've always talked about this is I would have loved to see 319 or 318 or 320. It doesn't matter what patch it is, be a theme.
Yeah.
The cargo patch.
Yes.
Right? The cargo patch.
Oh God, I've been hoping for that for
then you
years
have
now.
Everybody. Yeah, like they don't have to get in the room on an ISC. They have to get in the room for 3 months and work together towards this common goal. Everybody, all hands on deck on these features. The 318 could have been the piracy patch. And piracy isn't just about making, balancing the piracy in one direction where it kind of was. And now we're doing some more law system stuff. But it could have been, you're going to get pirated more now, but there's consequences. And everybody was ready for it and together, and this was the patch, And
honestly, they don't have to move around the features that much. They could have just marketed it that way. I mean, I don't even think they're at a level in their development where they can theme an update, right? They're just still throwing too many things at the wall to try and get them into the game. But like, they could have absolutely just been leaned more into the narrative that 318 was the pirate patch. Maybe held off on the Hull C for one patch and then updated it with freight elevators and called that the cargo patch. Like
the economy or whatever.
I think they could lean more into that without even changing the updates all that much.
Yeah. And I would just love we don't know, what happens behind the scenes. We're just pure speculation, but it feels that way. It feels like
Yeah.
there's a lot, 11, 1,200 people. There's no way that they're not running into communication problems, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's always easy to suggest changes from our little chairs over here. I don't.
Hmm.
I'm glad that I'm not trying to run what they are trying to do, because with the
Hell
amount of
no.
people, with what they're doing, man, I've tried to make a game. It was like 8 lines of code, and I was stressed out for 2 weeks. Okay, I don't need I don't need anything the level of Star Citizen. But
Yeah, I tried to mod a menu in a game, and the sky was removed.
dude, coding is hard, but
Yeah.
it is, like you said, obviously this is a really big company, and we've seen enough little communication mistakes on our own end to have some wonders about what kind of stuff might be getting missed that could be improving these updates.
Sure.
But speaking of updates, moving on from actually, before we move on from CitizenCon Expectations, last question I wanted to ask on that. Do you think we're gonna get Squadron 42 news? It's kind of the big question everybody's been asking. Oh,
I think they'll do a. I think we're gonna. How do you cover 2 days without talking about it? So yes, and I think at the bare minimum, it's another. This is how Squadron 42 is improving Star Citizen update, and just showing some progress that they've made on many things with regards to that. Or it can go as far as delivering a release date, and I think they can do that easily, because release dates don't mean anything. So they can be like Star Citizen or Squadron 42 coming holiday 2024, right? And they can say it, but everybody has said things in the past. Um, and Starfield was delayed, Cyberpunk was delayed, many games get delayed. Baldur's Gate moved forward to avoid other releases and things like that. So there's the release dates don't mean anything. You don't get in trouble for missing a release date typically. So they could do that, but that's really where I stand with that. Is we will hear an update, but we have been following Star Citizen for so long that things they say don't have any weight. So I will not. The last time I believed anything that they said without seeing it was the letter from the chairman, the first one, and the second one, and I will not be duped again. That was my straw that broke my back, and I no longer believe a single word any of them say. And I will be absolutely excited for things like quality of life fixes that I jump into game and see in 320. Features that I'm seeing being worked on in for 321 or whatever on an ISC coming up or at CitizenCon. That's where my limit is. Anything beyond things that are actively being worked on, I no longer care, because I don't have the energy for it anymore. You have burned me out so far. Now I hope I held through the entire prayer. I did. Okay, good. I was
yeah,
I was
you
just
got
trying to
me.
carry for you.
I'm like going through the verses. I'm like, okay, he's almost done. Good job. Good job. Keep it up.
I got you.
The second letter you were talking about, the beginning of this year, end of last year, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The main one was the first one from July of last year. That it's very similar to the conversations they're talking about with quality of life being an initiative starting now. I mean, just go read the last letter. Read that letter from the chairman. That was exactly what they said, right? And in so many ways, it's like, oh, the quality of life is so important. It's going to improve. Go back to Aaron Roberts talking about staggered development. Oh, the patches are going to come in so much more polished. I don't believe you anymore. And it's not because I don't believe your intentions are bad. It's because history is history, and that's it. Just prove me wrong, and that's all.
I'm very much in the place of, I was adamant about they're going to switch these teams over, focus more on Squadron 42. we'll see some of that polish come in. Obviously, that will hit us with a 6 to 12 month delay at first, but then everything would catch back up because the natural work would continue and it would roll over from Squadron from that point. But we still haven't seen anything, and it
That
hurts.
should be at the end of this year, though, right?
No,
Like
I believe that a year and a half from when they said they were starting to do that, that was when he brought Richard Tyrer
July.
on to Squad. No, this was like
way
the
before
end
that.
of
Yeah.
2021, I think.
Yeah.
Like fall of 2021 was when they sat down and said, okay, we're switching things up. This is how it's going to go. We waited a whole year, and then they showed us the stuff from Squadron that they were working on. And we're like, okay, the star map, the mobi-glass, the EVA, the platforming, these are things that you have taken away with the active feature team or anybody else and you've worked on. But now we're coming up on 12 months from that point as well. And
we got the vaulting, mantling. I could jump at my Cutlass Black now.
Oh my God. I just felt my body temperature go up when you said that. But it's like 2 years we got the mantling.
Oh yeah. Like the one thing though is the second letter, correct me if I'm wrong, or some other conversation was the star map, the all those things, the EVA was for the end of this year. So if they don't hit that, nothing's going to change. I'm still going to follow the project, but it's just like another again.
Well,
again.
Yeah,
it's
so
just like I'm over it.
I was looking forward to this because I wanted to transition from this into Alpha 3.21, which is a patch that, like I said in the beginning, hasn't been officially confirmed in that it's on the release view, but we did have one of the community managers, Jake Bradley, say on Spectrum that they are working on QA for 3.21. So it's worth assuming that that's going to be our fourth quarter patch. And I wanted to dive at that patch with kind of your expectations for your expectations for this patch, and also considering that letter from the chairman that we got at the beginning of this year, which I will clarify, Mike actually did them a little favor there. They did not say those features were going to be at the end of the year. They said that they were going to get features like engineering, what was it? Engineering, salvaging, virtual AI with bounty hunting V2, and I think maybe one other thing. They said we're going to be in this year. And then they went on to say towards the end of the year, we will also be getting, and they named a bunch of other features. I can pull it up while we're talking right now, actually, but there were a lot of expectations set at the beginning of this year with the expectation that I think PES was maybe a month out from where that letter was. Now,
and not complete meltdown. I mean, it was a nuclear meltdown.
Yeah. So that's part of what needs to be, I think, accounted for when we talk about these features. But what are you thinking now with the new lay of the land?
Well, when it comes to those Squadron features, nothing about 3.18 should have any effect on that whatsoever, right? All of that polish should be going on in game dev that has nothing to do with PES whatsoever. So the polish of those features and the level that those features should be at should be in the game whenever they are happy with the quality bar that they're at, right? And then it's just about bringing it into what we can play. So for things like scanning, for things like the star map, for things like master modes or whatever examples that they had given, and I'll try to avoid saying them so we're clear when you bring them up. But that is where I'll be extremely disappointed if we don't get. When it comes to PU focused features like bounty hunting and stuff, those are absolutely affected by PES and things like that. Teams that work on those features would have had to address issues resulting in the absolute meltdown that happened. So I expect features like that to be delayed or whatever, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm not extremely disappointed. Of course I am, but the I guess we can continue to give them a pass. But the overall feelings of 21 would be very similar to what we have at 20. Quality of life stuff, a few tweaks here and there. Maybe maybe we see bounty hunting. Maybe we see some of these things from Squadron. One thing I would love, 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 and I think that they're saving for SitCon is, and we got a little hint maybe in a 320 patch this yesterday or the day before, is mission givers doing something, giving me something, like going all the way back to Starfield, going down a mission chain. Like,
It's nice.
is that so much to ask for, bro? Like, come on. And it's not, sorry, the Arlington gang, that's not a mission chain, dude. It's not,
No. Yeah, the
you know?
mission givers, I think all of their missions would need to be reworked when they start working again. None of those missions are really convincing past our normal contract manager missions.
Yeah. And it's just like reading the story in the Moby Glass. That's not a mission chain.
Yeah. So some of the things that I think have all but been confirmed this year for 3.21, derelict settlements, which have now been delayed out of 3.19 and 3.20.
Yeah, like that's just what?
Those are-
Montreal was like killing it forever, and then
Yeah, that's a real mystery. I'm not sure what's going on with those, but they haven't shown up for 3.20 yet, so I'm assuming those will be in 3.21 until they don't show up for that. And
or
we'll-
320.1 or 320.2 or 320,
Yeah,
like
yeah, fair.
however long. That there's always the chance, and huff on it, that SitCon, they drop a they're like, and 320.2 drops with these features, or something, and it's like, I don't think so, but could be.
It is nice that those point X patches do more for us than they used to. They used to just be for bug fixing, and now they do at least slide in some of the extra little quality of life patches, or even like a new shipper or small feature or something, which is nice.
Yeah.
There's also the mining missions, which have not appeared anywhere. We heard about the same time as the salvage missions.
Gone. Probably my biggest disappointment of the year.
Do you think they're just not going to come, or do you think they're just in the cooker still?
Don't know. They've said nothing, which typically means they're gone. Right? Like, if they are radio silent, they're gone.
Yeah, and they don't even show up on the monthly reports. I wonder what happened there.
Same.
One of those great things that we unfortunately miss, because communication is not the same anymore.
I can guess, but it would only be a guess. I think it's a pretty educated one, though. You want me to guess?
Do it.
Salvage missions work because the cargo refactor works with everything that they needed, and mining is so legacy that it doesn't. Right? You remove your mining bags, you can't put them on a cargo ship and sell them and refine them. So there's a lot of, you can obviously put them on another mining ship, which is awesome, but there's a lot of old legacy crap that has to get, basically having those teams talk to each other and prioritize something that maybe doesn't need to be a priority. Because if it's team that worked on mining, EUPU, they're doing salvaging, resource stuff, and countless other things. I can't see them having the time to do that. So that's my guess.
Yeah.
But
I don't
it's
know,
my
man.
biggest disappointment.
The missions are a huge part of making this game play better for people. They don't have to do the sandbox gameplay to get into this stuff. I do hope that mining missions are coming still in 321.
I hope as well, but I don't think so.
You mentioned prospector bags. Another thing I think that would be an easy win for them would be pushing the refactor forward, allowing us to more easily work with like different mining bags. Obviously, freight elevators and tractor beams being something they've talked about a lot as well. You think that'll be there?
I don't know. I'm trying to do this thing where, the racing team just like like XGR and all these guys like just inspired the devs to like do some cool stuff. I've just been trying to like mine with my org and show them how we do it to inspire them to look at all the struggles that you have to go through or all the really cool stuff that happens and um and build something off of that. Cuz as much as I would love to do what would a refactor like that look like? It's a weird scenario. The bags are they're the same size, two different size holds in them. They don't really fit in cargo ships very well. It's just it's so disconnected that this is a point I wanted to make a long time ago was about them putting the cart before the horse kind of thing. Is like let's let more stuff happen. Like I don't want the Banu Merchantman. I don't want too many things to move with mining on the without them really understanding exactly how it's going to work. I think this is the last how we mine update that we're going to get because I think it's like nearly perfect.
Hmm.
So let's let that cook and then see how everybody interacts with everything and then make decisions based off of that. I also think bringing in refinery ships I don't know. I just don't know what it looked like. What would it look like and how would it work and how would it make sense and how would it be smooth? Cuz typically, in the world around us, everything is standardized, right? You have your cargo container that goes into a truck and everything is built around that rectangle box with all manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't do that with mining.
I'm
So
guessing they're
I
gonna
think it's a big undertaking.
they gotta standardize around the size of the pods on the Prospector, right? That's got to be their building blocks for everything in terms
Or
of
they have to
mining.
change the pods.
Into what boxes?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. That's my biggest problem. As much as I love mining, I don't know what to do. I just know that it's incredibly inefficient now. Like this is how we were mining. We had a hull C with 15 empty mole bags lined up on either side with both doors open. Our friends, everybody in our org goes out in a mole, prospect, or whatever. They go out and find whatever they can find and mine it. They come back to the hull C that's just out in the middle of space. One of them points this way at the front of the hull C, and then I'm in a empty mole on the other side. And somebody inside the hull C pulls the bags off and moves them into the empty mole, and then I'll go and sell or refine. And then we take the empty bags, fill it back up, and they go back. But it was like really time consuming. It was super fun, but like really inefficient and weird. Like, and no cargo ship is involved. It's just odd.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just such a removal from the way everything else works.
Well, they've got until refining gameplay comes in to figure it out because that's going to be the full loop.
I think
Besides
they should make them
crafting,
triangles, maybe. Because
boy.
triangles can be turned into a square.
Then they would work with the Gattac, with the Raylan,
Yeah.
with the little
Yeah.
triangle. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's probably what they've been banging their heads over the last year as they try and figure this cargo refactor out. Those are probably the questions that they are constantly trying to get to work with the game, and I'm excited to see what they come up with because, yeah, I can't wait for that kind of interchangeability with the gameplay.
Yeah. But I'm more like patient with it because I want it to be
Good.
I don't want it to be refactored a million times again.
Yeah.
I don't.
We're at that point where like get these things into the game and let us sit with them. Let us know that this is how the game's going to play.
Yeah, and don't have us fight. To come up with a system and have it be a little. Not everything needs to be a fight. Not everything needs to be incredibly tedious, right? It
Sure.
can be Make it fun.
Yeah.
So what does fun look like? I'm not sure yet. But simple.
Hopefully simple. Hopefully we find out soon.
Yeah.
Another thing that 3.21 might bring to us is the barge heist mission. It's one of the ones that we've heard about throughout this year on ISC.
Supposed to be in 320. Yeah.
Was it supposed to be in 3? They didn't never say it was going to be in 320, right? They just said it was.
I trust you on that. I thought it was going to be, though.
It felt like when they were showing it, it was definitely a further out kind of mission.
Okay.
That one and the conscription consignment or something like that. Something consignment
at
mission.
The bunkers.
Yeah, that's not coming in 320, is it?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
So new missions in 321 will probably be a thing. Additional arena commander changes. Hopefully we get truly private lobbies by then. Do you think that they'll hit us with the double patch update on that system, or will they drop it in 320 and then sit with that for a little while? What do you think?
I think if anybody's going to iterate a lot, it'll be the arena commander team, because their whole initiative was like getting arena commander working again. And obviously when I say arena commander, it's like all the modes, not just the flight combat stuff.
Yeah.
That, includes Star Marine and everything. Now that they have things in and working and we connect to lobbies and it's not super, super broken, there's two things that they need to do. They need to highlight all of the insanely annoying issues that, replayability is highlighting. So, many things for me. I can list off just like a few, but there's no point in doing that. Everybody has their issues with certain things. Highlighting those and fixing them, and to the teams that need to do them. I think that's, if we're doing this quality of life initiative, if these are why we're wasting development time, some people consider it wasting on Arena Commander. Make it not wasteful and make it useful, as they kind of highlighted what it would be, right? We're going to use this as a test bed. You're going to be able to practice. We are going to be able to highlight what's good and what's not much more easily. So do that. But the other thing that they're going to really be able to do is the next step. I mean, I think right now, as we speak, they're having, or they already had it, was a Star Citizen Live with that team. So I imagine some of the things that they would have discussed on that show is the future, and not just the present, is some of what's next. What's next has to be a lot of the things that they talked about were next. Progression, more gamifying things a bit, rewards. I have some expectations for those things in 321. I don't know if you do, but I definitely do.
I would love to.
It shouldn't be hard. I know everything is hard, but yeah.
I keep thinking back to that page we saw with the reputation categories probably about a year and a half ago now. It was like spring of 2022. And they showed like smuggling, kidnapping, cargo hauling, all these things with like these badges they were working on for upcoming reputation. God, I want to see that update.
Was that not the closest thing to the discussion that we were having before? Tell me what Star Citizen is.
Yeah.
That is the closest thing that we've ever had to that. Is like they showed me all of these progression paths that we can go to. They didn't have to show what the rewards were. They didn't have to show exactly what we would do. But they showed me that they intended for it to be there. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing that created disappointment, though.
I would love to have an update on it.
Still excited.
Yeah.
It's still excited, right? So it's Star Citizen, man. We're still excited, but
it's another one of those things that like they told us they were working on, and I can't imagine that is the only update that you have from working on it. Like you must have done something else, or that was the end of a sprint. And why not say that in ISC? We finished this sprint. The team will take it on later. I don't know, reputation changed teams, but like all we've heard from that so far is that it has changed teams. And you're talking about seeing progression in 3.21. We know that this is something that we're going to need for Pyro.
Just an Arena Commander.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I would like to see it elsewhere.
Me too. But my expectations are maybe not as high.
So do you think that's something that would be probably more of a 4.0 kind of thing they're waiting on doing? Reputation changes. Yeah. That's what I was thinking as well.
I just don't think I don't know about you, but delivering pyro will excite a certain sector of the community, but I think it's a small one. Um, you got to deliver it with
Things.
a little more meat on the bone.
Yep. Which is
Yeah.
why they're not showing us the star map.
I think they're not showing us the star map because it's not hollow enough or some dumb CRUI thing that they're so terrible at. Another Starfield, like,
I
sure, there's
think
lots of loading screens, but man, what
I
a
think
simple system.
I think they know. I think they know how much people want a new star map and how much people will be hyped for a new star map, and they're trying to save that to hype up 4.0 and probably be like a CitizenCon thing.
Maybe I kind of feel like they're also just trying to get it right.
Maybe.
But
I don't know, man. In their monthly reports, they talk about polishing. They're like, "Oh yes, we're updating the space dust in the map," and I'm like, "You guys are done with this thing. you got this figured out if you're doing freaking space dust."
I don't know. I don't think they ever got it figured out, man.
Well,
I am. You got to show me.
yeah,
I can't read it anymore. I can't listen to it anymore. You got to show me.
we will.
And hopefully, CitCon, we will see it.
Yeah, God, you better hope, because I'm a rage. But yeah, man,
that is a must for this CitizenCon is a star map.
Yeah, it's been too
A
long.
must.
Last year was too long. I thought they would show it last year, and they only showed interior maps. That was a weird decision. But now they haven't shown it until this CitizenCon, so I see it. They wanted to have something to hype up the time before 4.0. So I hope that we do see it. These are 3.21 expectations. Was there anything else that we missed that you thought might be showing up? This is very early expectations of it.
Ships have been really disappointing. So in my opinion, I don't think there's been any like, oh, mega, like the whole sea coming out is obviously like a big deal, right? But there hasn't been any like mega ship release, I don't think. I imagine we'll see something interesting, cool, different, something like that at CitizenCon, and then 321 is probably when we see it. Or, I mean, what are some of the ships that we know that they're working on? Santokiai. Yeah, the stupid Origin racer. Who cares?
The X1.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're working on the G12, and that's one of the unannounced.
Another who cares for me, but yeah.
It's off the backlog at least.
I love when an announced ship is unannounced, is unannounced in the monthly report. Well, that's one of my favorite things.
That's the thing, though, is like they pick their words, right? Sometimes they'll say unannounced. Sometimes they will say previously unannounced. Sometimes they will say a new vehicle, but they won't say unannounced vehicle. So you know it's been announced, but it's not been talked about. Yeah, they've got their little words that they use for that stuff.
I see in chat Spirit. Right?
Yeah, the Spirit's coming with 320.1, so we'll be seeing that beforehand. Is that a ship that interests you?
Well, the A1 is, right? Or do you think this? I can't remember if the C1
They're both scheduled for 320.x now, yeah.
Not a ship I bought. And without cargo missions, don't care. You deliver cargo missions, and I start caring about a lot of different sized ships.
Okay. So the C1, the A1, the Hull C's out. Santokiai is being worked on. X1 is being worked on. The Storm, the tank, that's...
Who cares? Been sneak peeking that for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
There we go. SRV. That'll be one that comes with tractor beams.
SRV.
Yeah.
Badly want to see that. So yeah, that would be a nice 321 edition, because now we're talking about not just a potential new profession, but like a very defining feature of like, what can this thing do? What will we move? How big of a thing can we move? Cleaning up, are they going to let us clean up armistice zone areas? And where do we drop off these big pieces? Are there going to be locations that you can drop off big hunks of metal that are not broken down by a reclaimer or a vulture, right? For salvage. Like there's a lot of directions you can go with just a simple tractor beam. I mean, I think the multi-tool tractor beam opened up a world of gameplay.
It's a great
And
addition.
yeah, ship-based, and this SRV tractor beams can do that at a bigger and more grand scale. And I really hope it comes in with some thought to
Honestly,
that.
just the simple mission of having people remove things that have been left around space stations. Like, I want that so badly that
But
there's
you have
just
to remove them from the server altogether. We have
Sure.
scrap yards.
yeah, exactly. Have
Just
people
drop
remove them
them
from the
down a
station.
hole.
Yeah, like these are like the missions that you can't do with other. That's like the type of mission that when somebody says, "Oh, Star Citizen versus Starfield," like you can't do that in Starfield. It's not possible. There aren't people leaving their spaceships floating around that you can go take and turn in. And the idea of doing actual work that actually cleans up the server using a game feature is the coolest thing ever. I just wish they would come
also,
with that.
It's also one of those features where, dude, I was hull scraping the other day and somebody goes, "This is exhilarating gameplay," like sarcastically. And I was like, yeah, I get it. It's like not interesting to watch, but I'm having a really good time. And like, I can imagine somebody going and picking up a hunk of metal and dropping it in a giant cauldron or something, not being interesting for somebody to watch, but being incredibly satisfying to play.
Yeah.
Right? There's just some stupid little things that are just, it's so simple, but it's awesome. I don't know.
I agree. And like,
I want that.
and people will say, well, that's a waste. That's not fun. It's 1%. It's less than 1% of a game you're supposed to be playing. Like, don't look at a single feature in a game and say, well, that's not going to keep me entertained. You're not supposed to do it the whole time. Somebody
And
who's
it's not
doing
gonna
this kind
keep
of stuff.
you entertained.
Yeah, that too.
But it might keep me, right? Like, not everybody is a Call of Duty sweatlord. And I think that was like one of the things that really opened my eyes to hull scraping. I was like, this is stupid. There's no risk. And then somebody from my community said, well, it's nice to just have something that isn't like, life or death. And it's just chill.
Yeah.
And then
we need a lot more of that.
Yeah. And then they came on and kind of reiterated that point as like that was a design decision by them. That's why they did it. And it was like, oh, okay, I can kind of get behind that.
Yeah. I certainly, I think we'll see that in 3.21. I hope it does come in with something supporting it besides just the tractor beams. And we know that with these vehicle tractor beams, we're going to see a pretty big rework to current tractor beams as well, the multi-tool, as well as the full-on rifle-sized tool, and then the vehicle tractor beams. So that'll be a pretty hefty change for 3.21.
You think people are going to be mad?
That
my multi-tool, I used to be able to do everything.
I mean, people
even though they need to chill because they've prepared everyone mentally for it. But the Spectrum threads, the Reddit threads will commence.
Is also, there's a ton of complaints that it's not already like that. So there's no winning. People are like, the multi-tool can carry too much. Well, I can't believe it can pick up a box like this, all this stuff. And
it's not by realism, by immersion.
The amount of people who saw the tractor beam dragging an Aurora back and thinking that was going to be just how tractor beams work. You'd just be able to capture your friend's ship and they couldn't fly away. Yeah, man. It's, there's no knowing exactly how they're going to work, but I think they've set expectations for folks to be aware that it's going to change at some point.
Agreed.
But that about wraps it up, man, in terms of everything I wanted to go over. I'm excited that it feels like there is some news coming out again with 320 going to PTU and us seeing some features creeping in that we weren't expecting. makes this last
Weeks
month
away from
before.
SitCon.
Yeah, it makes this last month not as difficult. So I look forward to getting back into the sort of swing of things with CitizenCon, and hopefully lead up for 3.21, giving us at least a little bit of good news for server meshing going on. But that's about all I had today, dude. Any closing thoughts?
No, just excited to enjoy what we got while we got it, and not looking too far in the future. Don't care. Don't care. Can't care anymore. Don't have the energy for it. You know
Can't
what I
care,
mean?
won't care. Yeah, I get
Nope.
you. I get you. Well, we've got 2 great space games now to play. Star Citizen
Exactly.
and Starfield, both to split the time between, which has been good fun. I know my man here has been playing as I have been on stream and off. You want to tell folks where they can find those streams and maybe your YouTube videos as well?
Sure. At SaltEMike everywhere. At SALTE MIKE, as you can see on the screen. And I mean, the only other thing that I do besides that is Desync podcast with Captain Burks, which is not a Star Citizen podcast. We just kind of talk about what it's like to be a content creator, things like that. And that's been like a new passion of mine, and it's been a lot of fun. And then the only other thing, like with my YouTube stuff, is I want, since going full time, there was something I really wanted to do, which was be a content creator. I don't know how else to say it, is be somebody that covers the game, be somebody that when you want to find out about how something works or what's going on, you're going to find it with me. And that's been a really hard initiative to try and achieve and learn how to do, and be be structured and be there quickly, and I'm getting there. And yeah, so just trying to do
Yeah,
more
dude.
of that, like cover things as they come out, more guides, that kind of stuff.
It's a lot.
It's so much.
Keeping like, not just keeping your mind on all the things that are happening, but figuring out ways to share those in content that isn't going to take up your whole day and
Yeah.
is going to be interesting to people is super hard.
I think we mentioned it, but you're my inspiration for a lot of that stuff. Like, you put out a video of what your month was like. I think we might have talked about this on a previous podcast.
Our behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it was just like,
that's Mrs. Tomato. That's her doing. I do the Star Citizen stuff.
No, but what is inspiring about that is it was, you guys had your time, because I'm married as well, and you got to give time to your significant other, and you got to live your life too, and it's very difficult when you are your own boss and you're running your own business, quote unquote, to not be working all the time. But you got, like, the structure you guys had, and it just showed that it was like, it's time to work, I work. It's time to relax, I relax. And we go get something to eat. We spent, it was just very, I'm trying to get to that point that you guys are already at, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we've been doing this full time as our only like job for a year and a half now or so, and it has been a learning process the whole time, just trying to figure that out, dude. Being your own boss and keeping up on work, and like freaking CIG, they will they will drop something with no warning whatsoever in the middle of the night, or maybe they will say they're going to drop something and then not do it for months. So it's like trying to also balance that timing.
The Friday patch, not only will they drop it like late at night, but like the mole was supposed to be able, you were supposed to be able to see like the mining HUD in the mole. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a video on this, and I'm going to cover everything in the patch, because it's, oh my God, this patch has like a lot of cool stuff in it, and I want to share this with people. It doesn't work. And a video I was hoping to get out in an hour took 3, because I'm trying to figure out how to get it to work.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing that always happens. Crazy.
Yeah.
But this was our outro, so I'm killing it. I'm sorry.
Broken game breaks sometimes. No, but
Yes.
I agree with you there. And congratulations, by the way, on the full time, on how that's been going so far, and the new podcast. That's been pretty good. Some good episodes. I hope that's
Yeah,
going
man.
well for you.
Yeah.
All right,
Things are good.
folks. Well, this has been your weekly space game podcast. As you know, you can find this on all of the audio platforms with no ads, or if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. And thanks to everybody who came to this live. Our supporters usually can see this every week live. I post it in our supporter alerts and let you folks know when it's coming up. But if you want to jump in and hear us talk before or after the podcast, usually we're getting into some drama or talking some crap about chat. You know how it is. So if you want to join us for that, if you are a supporter, please join us. And also check out the new exclusive video that came out today. It actually talks a little bit about Baldur's Gate 3 in Star Citizen.
Ooh.
I'm sure that'll be an interesting one for some folks. But again, thank you all for joining us this week. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Had a good talk. Got to learn a little bit more about Star Citizen and all the work that goes into making that content for it, especially when it's a time like this. Anyways, thank you again for joining us, and I'll see you all next week. Cheers.